Hey folks, it's Rob, and welcome back. We're continuing our series on the Night of the Living Dead by Alan Varney. Welcome to part 15 of our series. Somehow, we're still going. Let's give a status report. So, here we see memory trace A. We have 2 of the memory traces. We are down to 9 unlife points. We have used the rod of lordly might that we picked up, and we have lost the valuable but frankly unmagical bracelet. I have expended all the explosive pellets. I do have a slightly magical crystal ball of dubious value, the water-breathing necklace of dubious value, the bag of holding, which is not worthless, and giving us the extra 4 inventory slots on the page here. The luck charm, which will allow me to hit once when I miss once, and that's it, then the thing will be done. The speaking stone, which allows me to speak to basically not undead creatures, which would have been very helpful with the merman, but I have the merman's harpoon, which I can toss aside anytime I want. The harpoon does 8 damage for does basically 1 more point of damage, but for 1 point more difficult to attack. I'm actually thinking that might come in handy with the good luck charm, but I'm not sure how it's going to play out. The control scepter, which should allow me to control automatons, at least that's what it said when we got off the mummies, and the snake bracelet, which prevents poisoning by snakebite. We did used to have evidence box D, but we have had that cleared. We do have evidence box A. We have picked up 5 pieces of the staff so far: the dragon tooth, the iron piece, the crystal piece, the ceramic piece, and the ice piece. That leaves stone, wood, ivory, ruby, leaded gold, silver, and unicorn horn out there in the universe to find. We are up to 9:30 in the morning on the day of the incident. When last we were here, we were playing in the City of Garbage, and all well and good, but we've spent the hour to walk back to town as we've completed our countryside events, at least the ones we're aware of. And here we have the map of Waterdeep. Now, we have already been to the Castle Ward, to the Dock Ward, into the harbor, the countryside, and the Trades Ward, and we started in the City of the Dead, which has one location we haven't visited, but that's also, where the Lich is. So that leaves us Southern Ward, North Ward, and Sea Ward. Considering the amount of time I still have, I'm doing quite well, I guess, in that regard, but the 9 on life points is hard to deal with. Considering we're coming in from the countryside, I'm thinking Southern or Northern Ward. Let's do Northern Ward, right? Because then we can do the Sea Ward, maybe. Yeah. So, okay. North Ward. Now, 82A, which I'll bring up the sheet, the book, the PDF copy, sorry. There we are. 82A tells us where to go. So, for the North Ward, it's 148B. 148B. More northeast than north, so-called North Ward is large, spacious, prosperous, and above all, respectable. Here live the noble, exquisitely refined descendants of those revered entrepreneurs who plundered their neighbors, murdered the peasantry, and sacked the battlefields of centuries past, then had the good sense to purchase baronies with the loot. Their offspring have achieved status they could never know. In this well-heeled district, you can find many villas, all masterpieces of architecture, or at least of conspicuous consumption. Most of these roosts have been abandoned for the winter, their residents flown south. One particular villa seems of interest to the Cerbicule, and you may visit it at 58A. Catering to the remaining clientele are a number of shops that sell furs and pastries and dragon skin boots, and there is a gentle maid fest hall, 62A. At least one of these places holds a piece of the staff, says the shrunken head. If you imagine a shuriken head. If you don't want to visit either one, go back to 82A and choose another ward. Well, I mean, this seems reasonable, and there's a piece of the staff somewhere, according to Cerbicule. And he seemed more interested. I mean, the villa. Why else would we go to the villa? But there is the feast hall. I mean, it says fest hall. I think it's a feast hall. Let's do 58A. Well, here we have 58A, and we can see we have some art. So we have a fountain. It's very, sea themed. It's got like a mermaid. Well, yeah, mermaid. There's a bird on it, a vase with flowing water, and some coral, and it's got little shells around the outside, and it's got a mosaic tile on the outside, very fancy. Large vase here. Prominently two skeletons chopping down a tree that seems to have pears and apples on it. Well, let's read. 58A. It's just one thing after another, drones the weasel. It's monologue and incessant accompaniment up the high road. Get dug up, meet the lich, find the staff of Waterdeep. Okay, sounds fair, off we go. Land rises as you head north. Streets widen and the homes stretch higher and wider. More of them take up entire blocks. This is the North Ward, home of the wealthy. Haul the sword and get the good old shrunken head around the city of the dead, says the weasel. Is the staff there? No, not that I've heard. Then out into the Waterdeep. Only 10,000 different places to look. Has the staff decided to confine itself to one small neighborhood? It is to laugh. The Cerbicule has guided you almost to Northgate, where the high road breaches the city wall and heads hundreds of miles up the coast towards Luskan and the inaccurately named Neverwinter. On the long walk, you have not seen one living person except for hundreds felled by the effluvium. This mighty wizard Kelvin, continues the weasel, sure is a cosmopolitan sort, isn't he? Wants to enchant a staff. He doesn't pop down to the bazaar and tell the woodworker, make me a nice staff of Waterdeep. There's a good fellow. No. You have come to one of the city's largest mansions, the home, as you can tell by the silver gold crest shining on each side of the house, of the Brosfeather clan, magnates of lumber and fur trapping. The weasel's tirade continues. So Kelvin embarks on a grand tour of all the really neat spots of the city, recruiting all the good-feeling items right out of people's hands. Excuse me, is that your prized potato peeler? That should do nicely. Hand it over. Don't they ever have laws against that? People always say, never meddle in the affairs of wizards. But this one sure did his share of meddling in everyone else's. You enter the courtyard by a brick archway. The gate hangs open by the hinge, and the weasel shuts up. Water falls gently in the fountain, and a light breeze stirs the foliage. Were you alive, you could not help admiring the building's elegance and the courtyard's charm, but now you are unaffected. You feel certain this life is different from the one you had lived. If you have been to the Brosfeather family villa before in this adventure, stop reading here and go immediately to 152D. If this is your first time you have been here, keep reading. Well, it is. These thoughts fly through your mind like a bird that flies through the courtyard. The creature swoops by you with a sprattle of gears and ratchets, and you recognize it as a mechanism, an automaton. It lands clumsily on the courtyard fountain, shouting, "Chop it down!" Two skeletons, carrying axes by handles thicker than their own bones, are chopping it down. A fruit tree, fully leaved even in the dead of winter, and bearing many different kinds of fruit. Magical. As you watch, one of the skeletons swings its axe and strikes the trunk, and the other follows suit. The tree shudders with every blow. Chop it down! Chop it down! Croaks the bird. Will you try to stop the skeletons, 112E? Attack the bird, 97F? Let the skeletons chop down the tree, 107F? Or leave, 117F? Even in my sorely worn out state, I can probably take 2 skeletons, unless the dice completely fail me. And I don't want the tree chopped down if I can help it. It's apparently clearly magical, and maybe that's why somebody wants it, right? Or they want it eliminated for some reason. So, obviously, I met their odds. And as a paladin of Torm, justice must be served, right? So 112E. 112E. How can you stop these wretches from destroying this rare tree? You may attack them, 159C, or try commanding them to stop, 98B. Otherwise, they chop it down. Go to 107F. I'll try... commanding them sounds interesting. I am a powerful undead myself. Yeah, okay, 98B. What's the worst that's going to happen? I'll end up having to just chop it into pieces anyway, right? 98B. Or I order you to stop this immediately, you command with all the authority you can muster. The skeletons halt their work and turn towards you. Their axes hang motionless in their hands. It worked. What morons, snickers the weasel. They'd chop each other if you told them to. Nonsense, you think, but you regard the skeletons, mindless servants really, with hope. Could it hurt to try? Preparing to draw your sword if necessary, you point to one skeleton and in a commanding tone shout, "You! Chop him up!" As the one raises its axe, you turn to the other and command, "You! Chop him up!" It, too, obligingly raises its axe. The 2 skeletons face each other and start chopping. You watch in amazement as axes come crashing down on bone. The skeletons tumble, hacking until they can hack no more. The bones lie twitching in the courtyard, skeletal hands still trying to clutch the axe handles. Triumph rises in you. But a fearsome voice from the archway calls to you. Very clever. Of course, had I not been involved in duties elsewhere, I would have prevented your actions. To do more, you must face me. What blood you have left in your body turns colder than ever. Will you go to the archway and meet the unknown voice, 54E, or run from the place, 117F? Now, here's a problem. What was commanding them is way more probably a problem than the 2 skeletons were. And again, we have 9 unlife points. If we want to actually carry out our mission, we need to survive. It wants me to go in. It must be some kind of undead that doesn't want to come out. Or it can't be bothered to cut the tree down. I think we'll leave. 117F. Discretion is the better part of valor, as it were. We'll try coming back. Sometimes when we come back, things have a habit of resolving themselves, I think. At least that's what I remember from playing. Things definitely change when you return to a place. So 107, because it's like always says, this is your first time visiting here, read on, but otherwise, so 117F. 117F. You depart the courtyard and look around to regain your bearings. The only other place nearby that arouses the Serapicul's interest is the Gentle Mermaid Gambling Hall, within half an hour's walk in the North Ward, 62A. Or go to 82A to pick somewhere else to visit in Waterdeep. Well, okay. The gambling hall, sure. That's a half hour, of course, which I'll need to mark off. Bring us to 10 a.m. 62A. Well, here we are at 62A, and we have yet more art. A bunch of people passed out here at the gambling hall, as you might expect. Roulette wheel with one of those, well, I'm going to call them imp creatures, right? It called itself an adjutant when we ran into one at the drug den. People passed out all over the place. Fairly comfortable furnishings. Spilled glass of wine. That's not going to come out of the rug. Spilled coins. Stacked coins. Deck of cards, I guess, back there. Not sure what else there is to see here, but we'll read the entry and see what it thinks. 62A. Though the effluvium must have hit at around midnight, the Gentle Mermaid Fest Hall and Gambling House was still crowded when it struck. Unconscious patrons sprawl at card and dice tables, their bets knocked over into one another. Were they awake, you imagine they might regard this as a greater disaster than the destruction of Waterdeep. The croupier, the attendants who collect bets and pay winnings, also sleep the troubled sleep of effluvium. The numbered wheel you assume to be a wheel of chance, though you think you never saw one in life. Atop it sits a small creature with bright eyes. It looks down at the gamblers with curiosity, suiting its very curious appearance. It glances at you, then returns to its examination of the others. Is anyone with you besides the Cerbicule and the Weasel? Go to 146A. No, I don't have anyone with me. That's interesting. Who could have been with me? If you have been to the Gentle Mermaid before in this adventure, stop reading here and go immediately 117G. This is the first time you've been here in this adventure, keep reading. You may try speaking with the odd monster perched on the wheel, 61A, leave, 108G, or look around as you like. Well, this is a rare opportunity for us to just actually look at some stuff without having to deal with an encounter for a change. So we have the options of the Wheel of Chance itself, 106E. The woman, probably that woman in the foreground with her hand outstretched here, 92F. Just coins, 31C. The croupier, 16C. Guessing that's the guy over here with the knife. And other patrons, 142C. That's a pile of people around here, I guess. Let's start with the stuff that's probably not going to get us thrown out of here. 142C for the other patrons. 142C. Most clients here are conventional upper-class dabblers in games of chance. All lie unconscious, carried into nightmare by the effluvium. Even in sleep, two characters at the back table strike you as suspicious. The one is well-dressed and somewhat rotund, his hands pale and doughy. The other hardly seems a conventional companion for this dandy. He's obviously a seasoned fighter, tall, slim, saturnine, and smelling of poison. At their feet lies a small pouch of many gold coins. They must have been exchanging them under the table when the effluvium knocked them out. You may investigate the pouch, 119E, or the coins, 65C, or return, 62A, to look at something else, or leave, 108G. Well, let's look at the pouch, 119E. 119E. Inside the pouch, you find a fine blue powder. Cerbicule sniffs it and coughs. Poison. Proof that these shady-looking characters were indeed up to something shady. The poison doesn't affect you or the shrunken head. You may take it if you wish. It counts as a possession. You may look at the coins on the floor. 65C. Return to 62A to look at something else, or leave 108G. Well, I mean, I'll take the poison. I got room right now. Yeah. Poison. Never know if I'm going to run into something alive I could use it on, right? Let's look at the coins on the floor. How harmless could that be? 65C. 65C. The gold coins on the floor represent much money. Someone who's willing to pay someone a lot for something. To fill in the blanks, you hold out the cervicule. Blood money, says instantly. Fat merchant, paying for stuff to have wife killed. Assassination. A reminder that many stories were playing themselves out before the effluvium disrupted them. You can't very well kill the assassin on the spot before the crime is committed and without a trial. As a stopgap, you gather up the money and throw it on a distant table. When and if everyone wakes up, the assassin won't kill anyone without his fee. The pouch, a murder weapon? Go to 119E to look at it. Return to 62A to keep looking, or leave 108G. Well, we know the pouch was a murder weapon, and we have collected it. So we have doubly prevented this murder, for the time being. Not that he won't necessarily try again. Assuming he survives stiffing the assassin. 62A. That's just around the corner. Here we are. Well, let's look at the croupier. 16C. 16C. There's something familiar about the croupier. You don't believe you know him personally, or that you would associate with employees of gambling houses in general. But he reminds you of someone. Who? You ruminate on the idea as you search him, hoping to gain information. His clothes are simple, no jewels, nor ornaments, nor weapons. Simplicity reminds you of Kelavaras, the wise brother in the temple of your god, who taught you the merits of patience and inner strength. From Kelavaras you learned of devotion and gained some insight on the road to wisdom. If he could only help you now, when that road extends so far you cannot see the end. Exhilarated at the memory and frustrated at your inability to remember more, you leave the croupier and return to other matters. Return to 62A to look around further, or leave 108G. Well, we're going to return to 62A. Let's look at the coins. Sure, 31C. Why not? 31C. One of the stacks of coins glitters unusually brightly. A trick of the light? But your eyes do not require light. You reach for the coins, and are astounded when you find yourself holding a shining silver piece of the staff of Waterdeep. As easy as that, you say to yourself. But were the pieces emblems of good? How could coins in a gambling casino further purposes of morality? To find out, go to 156A and learn more about the Staff of Waterdeep and this piece of it, but first make a note of this section, 31C, so you may return here when you are finished there. Now, as we've done this before, 156A is very much a navigation page, and we are going to be directed further from there to the piece for the silver piece. So I will look it up in the book. And silver. Silver is 103D. Okay. 103D. How strange to find a piece of the staff in a gambling hall. You notice that these coins, though, are quite old. The shrunken head confirms your suspicion. These silver pieces have ascended from the realm of legal tender to the more exalted one of collectibles. The owner of the Gentle Mermaid, an avid coin collector, kept these coins on display and polished them lovingly. The beautiful silver pieces afforded visitors a few moments of pleasure and contemplation amid the hubbub of the casino. This imbued the coins with the high psychic energy that Kelvin sought for the staff. Return now to the text you were reading. Well, that was 31C. So here we are back at 31C. Check off the silver piece on your bookmark list when you take it. It does not count against your limit of 8 possessions. You may look around further or leave. The usual 62A, 108G. I'm going to mark the silver piece off on the sheet. which is great. I'm happy to get a sixth piece of the staff. And without dying, too. Well, being destroyed. Should we look around a little more? I suppose there is there's still stuff to look at. Why not? Maybe it'll unlock a memory trace, or we'll get run out here. 62A. So that leaves the woman and the wheel of chance, or we can try talking with the odd monster on the wheel. Let's check out the woman, 92F. You decide the woman would be beautiful to living eyes. Your own undead perceptions find her mere physical details less wonderful than the aura of life surrounding her, a glittering array of colors. The same aura surrounds every patron here and every living thing you have seen. The truest beauty, the only real beauty, is that of life, and you have had to die to find out. The woman wears a ruby ring. You may try on the ring, 54A. Look around some more, 62A, or leave, 108G. Well, I'm not above looking at the ring, 54A. You place the ring on your smallest finger. It was made for a feminine hand. Truly a fine gem, it reflects light brilliantly. But it doesn't go with your armor, notes the weasel. No magic, says the Cerbicule when you bring it to the ring. Once belonged to a princess. What princess? Lived long ago. Her name was Ariel. Ring was precious gift from her father, king. Wore it always, then was kidnapped by pirates. Pirates held her captive on island. She kept them from noticing her ring through a little magic spell. Then brave sailor Darius rescued her in a small boat. In gratitude and love, she gave him ring. Couple drawing close to Arya's homeland in small boat when the pirates overtake them in big ship. Pirate leader throws Darius overboard, but now King's navy approaches. Pirate casts spell on himself to look like Darius, pretends to rescue princess, and takes her to King. King gives pirate Ariel's hand. Married the pirate, exclaims the skull. That's life in a nutshell, isn't it? That should have been the weasel's voice. Married the pirate, exclaims the skull. That's life in a nutshell, isn't it? Wedding day arrives and the ceremony about to start, continues the Cerbicule. Out of the Z crawls Darius, confronts pirate leader. Ariel recognizes her ring. Great battle ensues. Darius triumphs and weds princess. Live happily many years. You consider the ring for some moments. The Cerbicule cannot tell you who the woman is or why she has the ring. It might be important to her. You cannot take something that is not yours, especially not from someone who must cherish it. You return the ring to her finger. Do you leave, 108G, or look around some more, 62A? Well, that was interesting, but completely a diversion. But 62A. It's not even far away. The Wheel of Chance itself, 106E. 106E. The Wheel of Chance is a gaudy apparatus. The sums numbered around its edge sparkle like an alluring will-o'-the-wisps. You are sure you never bet on one of these in your life, but you also seem to recall that this gave the poorest odds in the house. How could you know that? Perhaps your companions were less rigorous in their morality. Examining the table, you find a suspicious bulb in the carpet beneath the croupier's foot. Pulling it back, you discover a hidden treadle. It's obvious that this game was fixed. Before you know it, you have angrily drawn your blade and smashed the treadle. Now what prompted that burst of temper? The weasel asks. But the question is rhetorical, for it concludes, something to do with the brother at the temple, perhaps? Indeed, you have a vagrant memory of a temple official's angry over subordinate's loss. He only wanted to earn more for the cause, he said. You cannot remember whether you took his side, but you know you were not pleased. You recall no more. Go to 62A to keep looking around, or leave, 108G. Well, maybe we'll talk to the creature. 62A. Now, speaking of the creature is 61A, so that's just back here. You know, you never saw a creature such as this in your life. What do you hear? You ask experimentally. Oh, I am an adjutant, but my duties are not pressing, so I simply muse upon the impulse to gamble, says the creature in perfect speech, its modulated voice sounding in your head as undead voices do. So alien to my nature, it continues, though not to my plane of origin. Does the urge to risk spring from a faith that the universe works for the individual's benefit? Or is it merely to add zest to the otherwise humdrum life? Um, I'm not sure. What do you yourself believe in the beneficent universe? The burning of your lungs grows more intense. How you long for a breath of air. How you wish you knew a reason that you suffocate. No, you answer. How much randomness do we want in life? Take yourself, for instance. If the universe does not actively work for good, in your view, then perhaps chance will produce malign results, but it may prove equally favorable. For a demonstration, would you like to spin this wheel? I shall guarantee a truly random happening for good or ill or indifferent. Why? What are you? What sort of happening? Will you spin the wheel, my pessimistic friend? You may take this adjutant up on his offer and spin the wheel, 116A, talk further with it, 16B, attack it, 147D, or ignore it and look around and return to 62A, or you may leave, 108G. And considering the length of this episode, I am going to stop here. I know, I'm mean. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope you have a great evening, and join us next time when we find out what I choose. Have a great day. Goodbye.